The story begins with a girl whose life was touched by pain long before she understood what pain meant. Before I even understood the meaning of the world, something had already been taken from me. Now here's my story. Babies are meant to know only warmth, soft voices, gentle hands, and the safety of loving arms. But my life began under a shadow I could not see and could not name. When I was still a baby, someone crossed a boundary that should never be crossed. I was too small to understand it, too young to remember clearly, but the truth of it lives somewhere deep inside my story. My childhood had already been marked before it even began. When I turned 5, I was like every other child, curious, playful, and innocent. I loved watching the world around me, listening to people talk in the compound, and playing. Outside, where the dust rose beneath my feet as children laughed and chased one another, I believed the world was safe. But one moment changed everything. At 5 years old, something happened that shattered the simple world I believed in. Someone hurt me in a way no child should ever experience. I didn't understand what happened. All I knew was the sudden fear that settled inside my chest, the confusion that made everything feel strange and heavy. I was still just a child trying to understand why the world suddenly felt unsafe. But the worst part of my story was still unfolding. There was a neighbor, someone everyone else saw as normal. People greeted him, spoke to him casually, and walked past him every day without suspicion. To them, he was simply an adult in the community. But to me, he became the shadow that followed my childhood. From the age of 5 until I was 9 years old, he repeatedly took advantage of my innocence. I was too young to understand what was happening, yet old enough to feel the fear every time he came close. Small heart would pound loudly in my chest. My body would freeze with dread, and the silence grew heavier with every passing year. Children often believe terrible things happen because of something they did wrong. I carried that belief deep inside me. I thought maybe it was my fault. Maybe I had done something that caused it, so I stayed quiet. I didn't know how to tell anyone. The words felt impossible to speak. Fear wrapped itself around my voice and locked it away. While other children were laughing, learning, and growing freely, I was carrying something too heavy for someone my age. The years that should have been filled with joy slowly became years filled with fear and confusion. Between the ages of 5 and 9, pieces of my childhood disappeared. By the time the abuse finally stopped, the damage had already taken root deep inside me. On the outside, life continued like nothing had happened. People saw a child growing older, going through life like everyone else. But inside me, something had already been broken. As I grew into my teenage years and later adulthood, the memories began to surface more clearly. Sometimes they appeared as nightmares that woke me suddenly in the night. Sometimes they came as flashbacks. There are moments when the past returned so strongly that it felt like I was that frightened child again. The trauma followed me into every stage of my life. Trust became difficult, relationships felt complicated. Certain places, sounds, or situations could suddenly bring the memories rushing back.